This video will deal with the repairs on the sunroof. If the older style sunroof lifting mechanism fails, you must replace the entire unit, as parts are not sold separately. The normal operation of the sunroof is run by the single sunroof switch on the center console and indicated by the red arrow. What operations the switch performs is dependent on the position of the ignition switch. If your sunroof has stopped moving, you will need to access the motor assembly to manually move the sunroof mechanism and remove the roof. The sunroof motor and assembly is located in the rear left quarter panel. You access it by removing the carpet from inside the hatch area, red arrow. Use a trim removal tool and carefully remove each of the plastic retaining snaps, red arrow, and pull the carpet back. With the carpet back, you can see the sunroof motor assembly. It includes the motor, red arrow, the guide rail with the limit switches, yellow arrow on the other side of the rail, and the tool for manually moving the sunroof cable, green arrow. Remove the two plastic wing nuts and the tool from the rail. You're going to use the box wrench end of the tool, red arrow, to remove the adjusting screw bolt, and then the pronged end, yellow arrow, to advance and retract the cable. Usually, there would be the head of the adjusting screw bolt here, red arrow. Using the tool, you would back the adjustment screw out and then insert the pronged end of the tool and turn it to move the cable. Our screw bolt was sheared off in the assembly, so we had to remove the whole unit. The sunroof motor puts out a lot of torque, so if you have not already disconnected the battery, make sure to unplug the unit. Next, you will need to remove the 3 Phillips head screws from the assembly, red arrow, and the 2 10mm nuts under the fender rail, yellow arrow. Remove the assembly from the fender area. If you are replacing the cable assembly or need to move the cable to move the sunroof, you unscrew the 3 Phillips head screws on the top of the plastic cover, red arrows, on the rear of the motor. Remove the plastic top that holds the cable against the gear of the motor. You can now slide the cable, red arrow, back and out from the guide track, yellow arrow. With the cable out, you can push or pull the cable to move the sunroof. The early sunroof assembly has a guide rail attached to the sunroof motor, which extends towards the rear of the car. The very back of the guide rail is 2 limit switches, yellow arrows. These are the equivalent to limit switch 1 and 2 on the late model sunroof systems. They function together to stop the lifting arms in the lock position and are operated by a plastic dog that is attached to the end of the drive cable, red arrow. You can adjust the stop distance when it is installed by the adjustment screw, green arrow. By having access to the cable, you can now move the position of the lifting arms, red arrows, so you can remove the sunroof. You can see the main transfer box, yellow arrow, under the headliner. Remove the sunroof. Please follow the link provided at the end of this video for additional assistance with that task. With the sunroof out, begin gently removing the trim around the inner sunroof, red arrow. Peel it up carefully and set it aside. Next, gently free up the adhesive, red arrow, from the headliner to sunroof and remove enough headliner to gain access to the distribution box and lifting arms. Take your time and use care, as the headliner can become very brittle and tear easily. With the headliner loosened enough, you can see the sunroof mechanism. It consists of a distribution box from the motor, yellow arrow, and 2 lifting arms. Use a 5mm Allen and remove the 4 Allen screws holding the distribution box in the center of the roof, red arrows. Remove the 2 5mm Allen bolts, red arrows, and the single 4mm yellow arrow top bolt from each lifting assembly. You can now remove the assembly, red arrow, from the roof and gently pull the cable tube out from the C-pillar. You will need to carefully guide the new assembly and especially the pipe into place, red arrow. When sliding the pipe through the C-pillar, you will need to turn the whole assembly to avoid bending the pipe. It is critical that the pipe does not bend. Loosely mount the 2 5mm Allen bolts on each lifting assembly, red arrow. Next, mount the transfer box. With the cable through the C-pillar, pull the cable all the way out. it should be 305 millimeter plus or minus 1 millimeter from the pipe to plastic, red arrows, and 40 millimeter plus or minus when fully pushed in, yellow arrows. You are going to use the long 4 millimeter Allen bolt inserted through the forward mounting hole, red arrow, to perform the final adjustment of the sunroof panel. When the panel is installed, this bolt on each lifter housing is used to raise and lower the panel until it sits flush with the roof. Install the new cable into the track, yellow arrow, making sure that the wire coils in the opening of the pipe engage the gear in the drive unit, red arrow. With the cable engaged, install the 3 cover screws, red arrows, and install the unit, which is the reverse from removal. If you need to adjust the travel of the cable and when it contacts the limiting switches, you can move the switches forward and back in the guide by using a Phillips head screw to slide the switches, red arrow. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.